Today on Live It Up, I am welcoming two guests because we are going to be celebrating the 30th anniversary of Dirty Dancing. Former record executives Mike and Lou. Welcome to the show, guys. How are you?
Thank you.
Okay.
Good to have you here. So 30 years ago, Dirty Dancing became a part of your daily vernacular, right?
Very much so. And when you have a movie, then a movie soundtrack, you don't know whether it's going to be a hit or not. However, we set up Dirty Dancing just in case to make sure we did everything to make it successful.
You wanted it to be a success for RCA.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was done by a small motion picture company in Connecticut, Vestron. This was their biggest project to date. For RCA, we had new management, new team, and we wanted to make a statement. And we worked very closely from 6 months prior to the movie release with the movie company to make sure everything was covered.
Now, this wasn't the first soundtrack that RCA had put out, correct, Lou? This was something that you guys enjoyed doing? You wanted to be known for doing movie soundtracks?
I mean, this was basically with a new team, and it was really considered RCA relaunching the label itself with new acts and a new team, and this was their biggest selling album of all time, but at the time no one knew. I know I came on 6 months after the release of the album, and the finance department, they were already telling me, watch the inventory because we already sold 1 million copies.
Okay.
And you're going to start to get returns. So we would start ordering 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. Then I would talk to the salesman, how about we order some graphics so that we can manufacture quickly. We have LPs, we have cassettes, we have CDs, and we're trying to keep up with the different play. You know, and a year later, 10 million copies later, a year later, we're still selling. They're still selling.
Which all sold through, by the way. So there was no risk of returns. It was how high is up.
Okay, so here's what happened. So 6 months before the launch of the film, you guys were already putting together this whole soundtrack. You had a marketing idea of how you were going to market it, how you were going to get it into the hands of the consumers. But at what moment did you say, oh, wow, we're almost out of stock, we need to order more?
Actually, the night the movie had a world premiere.
Okay.
The Upper East Side in New York City. And, of course, you had people from the record company, people from the movie company. The rest were people who were reporters. It was a publicity thing. And at the end of the movie, it got a massive standing ovation. And we said, we got this.
Wow. So it was that moment of the standing ovation that the record industry said, we've got a hit on our hands and this is going to go big.
Right, we knew it was going to happen.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we did. I imagine RCA did.
Okay.
Now it was a matter of convincing radio to play a single so that we could have sales.
Okay.
And I guess that was the first, the Jennifer Warren, Bill Medley single. How
Time
long
of
did
My
it
Life.
take? How long did it take for us to get that played on radio?
It took over a month. What happened was the album was selling briskly. It was moving up to the top of the charts. But you release in the music business a single to get it played on radio. The idea of the game is you got to play it on radio, you sell it at retail, and that combination propels it up the Billboard chart. Problem, radio was telling our promotion department that's not a hit.
They didn't like this at first. The radio station said this is not going to be a hit.
Consumers, however, were buying the album saying this is a hit. On top of that, MTV was saying, we had a video, where's the radio airplay? And it got to the point, 3 weeks into it, one of the promotion people told Jimmy Einer, who was the man behind the music and much of the project of Dirty Dancing, they told him, radio wants to see if it's going to perform. And he said, what do you think it is? It's a monkey? Of course it's performing. People are buying the album.
Right.
Finally, one station in the country steps out, puts it on, it goes to #1 in one market in a matter of days.
Do you remember what station that was by chance? Okay, so
No.
we're going to find out. So we're going to have to, we'll Google that. We'll be like, all right. So, and I'm sure that the station owner of that station that made this so popular is going to say, hey, it wasn't me, it was me. I'm the one that decided to make it a hit.
And then within 24 hours, the rest of radio fell into place. And all of a sudden, the non-hit became a #1 hit.
Okay. You know, people were singing that, you know, I've had the time of my life. They were like singing it everywhere, in the shower, in the car, going to school. It really was part of people's like everyday, you know. They started making jokes about it. I had the time of my life. Well, I had the time of my life. It became part of our everyday culture.
It's an anthem,
Right.
really. It still is. And one of the great things about the music on the album, which was predominantly oldies, and the one new song you mentioned, is that it was integrated into the movie from the beginning. So it wasn't a movie that had some music.
Okay.
It was part of the experience. It's one of the reasons for the great continuous success of Dirty Dancing, from movie to the old things called VHS tapes,
Right.
into DVD, into streaming and downloads, and still popular today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
And there was a
Lou-
Dirty Dancing live also.
Okay.
They actually went on tour. I remember seeing it at Radio City Music Hall. They toured the whole country, Dirty Dancing live, doing songs from it. Eric Carmen sang. I think Jennifer Warren, Bill Medley were there. Patrick Swayze also sang his cut. So it was wonderful. And Mike was telling me earlier backstage that it also became iconic because of grandmother, mother, daughter, all involved in the
Multi-generational.
movie.
Yeah, because what happened was this. The primary people up front were teenage females.
Okay.
But moms liked it too. It's 30 years later, and everybody is aged, but never left the franchise, still love Dirty Dancing. So today, it's grandmother, mother, daughter.
Excellent. Lou, can you hand me the big LP? So, you know, there's generations now that don't even know what a record is, and some don't even know what a CD is. Lou and I were having this conversation the other day in the car. So, this was the original
Vinyl album.
Okay,
Right.
so on the vinyl album, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You got 12 hits, right?
Right.
Okay, so 6 on one side, 6 on the other?
That's correct.
So,
Exactly.
Lou, is that how it was pressed?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
so when they came to you and they said, you know, this is a hit. You started there at RCA. It was already starting to
Right.
generate
And Jimmy Ina was calling me every week.
and saying what?
You have enough inventory, don't run out. And meanwhile, I have the finance guys telling me, don't keep too much, don't run out. I had the executive vice president telling me on everything. It's not just this one project, I'm working all the projects. Don't make too much, but don't run out. That's all I want you to do. That was my direction. All right, so how do you do that? You know, so it was a process.
Now the album cover. Now was this one of those that you ended up wrapping? Was this jacket? Do you remember?
I'll tell you in a second.
You're going to open it?
No.
Oh, you're going to look. Okay.
I wouldn't do that.
So one of the
No,
things that you.
this is what we would call a short pack.
Okay, so
it's
explain that to me.
Print on board jacket.
Okay.
Flat, and then it gets folded, and then it gets sleeved,
Okay.
put into a paper sleeve, and then into the jacket
Okay, so that was actually printed
on board.
on
flat.
board. Okay, flat.
And then made into a jacket.
Okay.
And then sleeved. A lot of people think the jacket's wrapped around the record, but that's not the case. Then it gets shrink wrapped and sent out.
Okay.
Then you have different kinds of shrink wrap. I'm sorry, okay.
No, I know. Well, you were the
You
head
have
of
some-
production
The
at
production
the
part's
time.
coming
Yeah,
out.
Right.
yeah, the production side of it was coming out.
Some of the LP factories that we dealt with had shrink wrap that had a seam down the back, and I didn't like that.
Oh, yeah, it was like all melted
neither did
and
the
like-
art department like that.
Okay, bubbly.
So I wanted
I remember
something
that.
where, so we finally got everybody to do a seam on the sides and on the edges, which there's no reason you can't do that. And not to make it too tight. Because tight shrink wrap also warped the record, because the records were thinner
Okay.
as we moved on. This was 1997 that this was done. But now the records are getting thicker, because the perception is that a thicker record, 120 gram record, is higher quality, which is not the case.
It's not the case.
No.
Doesn't make any difference.
Doesn't make any difference.
Okay. What makes a good quality record in terms of production back in the day?
It's the master, how it's mastered in the studio. It goes back to, you know, what I guess like anything, garbage in, garbage out.
Okay.
So it's a good mastering studio. It's making sure every track is leveled so that you go from track 1 to track 2. It doesn't get loud and then low. So that's the first thing. And that the masters themselves are clean. Cassettes, the biggest problem with cassettes, that tape hiss.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the tape hiss of the cassette itself because you've worn it. It's a tape hiss from the master tape that was run through the process too many times. You should only run a master tape through a process maybe 1,500 times. But nowadays, well, not even now, but then later on as cassettes progressed, we started to use computers, so there was no looping of a cassette. It looped digitally, so you didn't have that master tape hiss. So actually you bought it with a hiss already included.
Now, were 8-tracks also made of this or no?
No.
Was this so this came out after 8-track was dead?
Well, 8-track wasn't totally dead.
Okay.
It was still being used for some country music.
But you guys
for
decided
trucks.
not for this.
Correct. Not
Okay.
for this.
But
Okay.
at some point it may have been licensed, because there was a company that was making 8-tracks of pop product, and they
Okay.
were licensing it to sell it on 8-track.
Okay, so you started out with the 12-inch record that had 12 hits.
12-inch cassette NCD.
12-inch
Three
cassette.
configurations.
Okay.
Right.
3 configurations.
And the single.
And how many of each
single.
do you make?
And how many of each did you make? How many did you
exactly.
end up making? Do you? I mean,
Initially-
millions and millions, right?
Right. Initially, we made 200,000.
200,000.
Because we didn't know, it was before the movie came out.
Okay.
We wanted to have enough to seed retail, so if somebody saw the movie, they could go buy it. Between then and now, it's over 40 million.
Over 40 million people. And that doesn't even mean how many people know the song because they listen to it on the radio. Those are 40 million sales of
Right,
some
of
type of a
albums.
hard product.
That's correct.
Album.
And on top of that, there was another album that came out a year later called More Dirty Dancing.
Yes.
This was music that didn't make the first album. And we sold 3 million copies of that in the US alone the first year, and about 3 million as well internationally in the first year. And that kept going as well.
Yeah.
Now,
a
what
gold
is-
record is considered a hit.
Okay.
That's only 500,000.
Okay.
Platinum is 1 million.
Yeah.
Platinum is 1 million. So this went 1 million over and over and over.
This was
That's what I was going to ask you. You have this big, beautiful plaque here that Lou Vaccarelli also received, but
Went missing.
his went missing. We think somebody has it out there. So just a second, I'm going to talk to the audience. If you know whoever has Lou Vaccarelli's plaque, he'd like it back. There's a reward, maybe $2.50, but there is a reward. So if you're watching and you know who's got his plaque. But anyway, Mike, this is yours, right?
Correct.
So this was given, there's 12 of these made.
Right.
Okay, what does this signify?
This was certified 10 million, meaning 10 times platinum,
Okay.
by the RCA, Recording Industry Association of America. And this was given to us in lieu at Christmas time the next year. It's about a little over a year into the project. It went 10 million sold through.
Limited edition of that plaque, by the way.
Limited
What
edition.
did you say? Only
12.
12?
About 12, yeah.
12.
And this was the 5th best-selling soundtrack of all time.
That is correct. Fifth best-selling of all time. And it's a gift that keeps on giving. Still selling today.
Recently, I was just asking you about this in the green room too. What was this piece? This limited edition double-decker thing, and it's got like pictures in it and stuff.
Right. This album, I left RCA
Okay.
and came back in 1995. Lou was still there, waiting for my return.
Okay.
And so he kept it warm. And the first morning of the first day, I went back and made a phone call to Jimmy Einer, who was the music producer, and said, let's start talking about 10th anniversary of Dirty Dancing. We got together for dinner and we brainstormed this. What you're holding is a 10th anniversary special edition, which was launched globally.
Okay.
And had the first 2 albums, Dirty Dancing and More Dirty Dancing. However, what you also have in here is a group of pictures taken by the author of Dirty Dancing, Eleanor Bergstein,
Okay.
on the original shoot that she had in her personal collection.
Wow.
Jimmy and I went to her apartment, looked through probably 1,000+ photos, picked out photos, and with the help of Jimmy Einer Jr., put together a booklet that was not available anywhere else at any price, and was built into this as a collector's edition. Very successful.
Yes.
I actually launched it on QVC, and we sold it at retail throughout the country and around the world.
Wonderful. Unbelievable. So how does it make you feel when you're part of a process like this, Lou, when you see something that has such global impact? What was that like for you?
No, it was a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, it was a lot of stress, but at the end of the day, you have the stresses and then you have the successes, and you feel like you've accomplished something. You've got something done. You know, especially when you get somebody like a Jimmy Ienner. We spoke to him, you and I spoke to him about a month ago.
On the phone?
Begging him to come on the show.
I did. Jimmy,
doesn't do
I'm
this.
requesting this again. I know you don't want to be on camera, but if you would, come on, you can do it. We'd love to have you. But yeah, we did talk to him on the phone, and he
made my day for him to say to me that I was one of the good guys.
Yes.
Compared to, I guess, the bad guy.
He told me the same thing, that Lou was one of the heroes of the project, which is true.
So working with people that you like and that you can trust, I think that's part of the process too, right? I know that our Live It Up team, you know, we always rely on each other. We always have each other's back. And in the music industry, sometimes back then, it used to be kind of, well, not kind of, it was extremely competitive. It could be like dog eat dog, and, you know, record industry people were, you know, on top of each other. So
right. It
for
depends
you,
on,
yeah.
Depends on the people,
Okay.
depends on the project.
Okay.
And you're totally right. When you have people on the same page, inside and outside the record company, it makes the upside much more possible and more likely.
Yeah.
And so that's what this was, a coordinated effort of
Well,
success.
Rick Dobbs, I
Right.
give a lot of credit to, he was the executive vice president of RCA at the time. Bob Buziak was the president, and Rick would have a weekly marketing meeting with the whole team, maybe 20 people in a room. And I didn't know the first 6 months I was there, the first 3 months I was there. I mean, we were in the meeting, and I'm getting beat up, okay? And I'm having to worry about sales. I'm having to worry about LPs, cassette, the CD, inventory, and meanwhile you had different department managers, promotion for the singles and different radio stations, and they were doing their own thing, and I'm there by myself with spreadsheets, and I'm going, yeah, this is like crazy already. And then I find out that there's a meeting the night before with only department heads. And I go, wait a second. So I go to Rick and I go, I want in on that meeting. He goes, well, if you think this meeting's intense, I said, yeah, but there's only 5 of us there. I said, and then I'll find out what you're going to throw me out of the room for. I said, and then I'll have an answer for you at that next meeting. And that's exactly what would happen. We'd go into that meeting the night before, be there until maybe 9, 10 o'clock at night, going over all the projects. And then it would be the same meeting over again, except now I knew the answer. Okay? He would ask me a question, and he'd yell at me about something or direct me to do something, and I would at least know the answer.
There was a yell of love.
A
Yes,
yell of love? Is that what you're calling it now, 30 years later?
Yes,
The
a yell
yell
of
of
love.
Well, we had Rick on the show, and he's a nice
loved
guy.
him.
Yeah, nice guy. Yeah,
So,
I always
things automated?
appreciated
Yeah.
his intensity.
Okay.
He was really into the projects,
Yes.
and it was really about the music. It was about the acts. It was about the music, and about the family that owned RCA Records, which was the Moen family. Bertelsmann was a privately owned company, and you needed to take risk, and you weren't doing the family justice if you didn't get the job done. And my favorite expression, and Donna's heard me say this over and over again, you gotta want to do it.
Yeah, you gotta want to do it, and if
you
do,
don't
you'll
want to
find a
do
way.
it, you're not going to do it. But if you want to do it, you know what? It'll get done.
2 other key people that we worked with on the project, Pete Jones, head of distribution,
Right.
was phenomenal, and Alan Grunblatt, who was a product director,
Yes, I remember.
now runs a record company.
Right.
And when you guys realized that it was successful, more successful, how did you as a team celebrate? Like, did they bring in bagels? I mean, like, were there moments where we're like, yeah, we're doing it, or this is unbelievable?
Got a plaque.
Okay.
Some of us still have it. Some of us don't.
You got a plaque. But were there other projects that were like kind of obliterated because this one was so successful, or did you try to also grow other things at the same time?
It's actually they weren't obliterated, they were helped.
They were helped,
The
okay.
money that came in from Dirty Dancing helped propel a number of new acts that succeeded, from heavy metal acts like Grim Reaper and White Wolf. Lita Ford was phenomenal, female guitarist. We were able to invest Bruce Hornsby and The Range and other artists through the help of Dirty Dancing.
Yeah,
So
Dave
you took the
Dave
proceeds and
Matthews
they
was on.
reinvested it. And who else?
Dave
Sorry?
Matthews.
Dave Matthews.
I followed through.
Really?
Yeah.
So the success of this, they kind of rolled on the tails of the success.
It helped. It gave you
Wow.
the financial ability to go after other projects in a meaningful way.
It also gave leverage at retail.
Yeah.
Because now you had a big hit, and when the salespeople would come in and say, this is the next hit, tendency is to believe.
And they'd give you
And
space.
radio station also. Radio promotion, the promotion guys go into radio, coming in, remember that hit you didn't want to take? Okay, well, this is a hit. and they would start to believe it.
But one of the key things is that we didn't just sit and wait to get more sales.
Okay.
We were aggressive for several years, going after more sales on Dirty Dancing. For example, once the movie is out, we're off to a good start. I sat down with a different arm of Vestron, the motion picture company at the time, and we talked about they were launching the into the home video market. Again, what could we do together? We came up with a joint marketing plan. I suggested you put up some money, I put up some money. We're together another phase of a consumer marketing campaign. And as part of that, I asked them for one thing. Put an ad for my album in the front of your video that went to the rental store. As it turned out, over 50 million people saw my ad because of the rental market in those days, Blockbuster and the mom and pop stores that were around. That again helped give us exposure for the album against people who were interested in Dirty Dancing.
So you already had that target audience built in. You knew if they rented the movie and they liked it, chances are if they didn't have the album, they were going to buy it.
Right. And then on top of that, when they went to sell-through video, meaning they changed to videos you buy to own, but in those days it was VHS, just before DVD. Research showed in the early 1990s that young females who bought it, played it over and over, wore the tape out, came back, bought it a second time.
Well, I know I did because well, you know.
Thank you.
You know, and a lot of people that I know did. I mean, these are all great songs. I mean, you've got on here. I've had the time of my life. You've got "Be My Baby." She's like the wind. I mean, she's like the wind. I mean, hello. "Hungry Eyes," "Stay," "Yes," "In the Still of the Night," "Where Are You Tonight," "Love Is Strange," "Overload," "Hey Baby," and "You Don't Own Me." This is fantastic music. I mean, it's really great music. You said some of these were remakes of old songs.
No, most of those were original songs. There were a couple that were new for the movie, but most were old songs.
Old songs,
yes,
right.
Just remastered.
Remastered old songs.
Right.
Excellent, guys. Well, what else would you like to share with me that I didn't talk about? I'd love to hear like maybe a little more behind the scenes kind of stuff about it.
I think the other phenomenon was that people actually went, especially women, went to the movie and saw the movie 3 and 4 or 5 times.
Correct. That was true.
Actually, yeah.
People watching it over and over.
Not just buying the DVD and watching it. Actually went to the movie when it first came out, over and over again, week after week.
Also, 10 years later, when we launched this, we built a new life into the original Dirty Dancing as well. The way we did it, number one, the motion picture company had changed. There's now a company live on the West Coast. Executive Vice President came to New York. We sat down for an hour. I told him what I was doing with this, and he decided to launch a 10th anniversary edition, a DVD, with the same name on the same day as mine. And we actually put together a plan. We put together his sales force and our sales force to go together to Best Buy and other companies that were around in those days, such as Tower Records, etc., the top accounts, and have joint displays. Then in Europe, we said, how can we ride the tails of this with the older album? And one of the people in Germany came up across Europe with the idea of a one-day sale of the original album. It was this simple. For one day, retailers in Europe would lower the price to you of Dirty Dancing. And we thought we'd get some action. We sold over 1 million.
Wow.
It sold through. So 6 months later, we did it again. Sold another 1 million. We actually repeated that for the next 3 years.
Unbelievable. Do you find that having a success like this opened doors for you pretty easily as a record company also? Like you said, it gave you some finances that allowed you to invest in other acts. But would people take your call? Like, would you just get on the phone as the marketing person and be like, yo?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a problem. First of all, the company got more credibility because of Dirty Dancing and people like Hornsby and other great artists who had sales. So it was a pretty happening place for a period of time. And I came out originally years ago out of consumer packaged goods. So these are companies that have lots of money but don't have the products with the sex appeal of this. So I was able to make deals with those companies to give them the rub of our albums and artists and use their money to promote them as well.
And Lou, for you, working, getting the printing done and getting the jackets done, and things like that. How did you outsource like the different components of it? And did you stay with the same team throughout the success of this, or did you have to make some shifts along the way?
Yeah, I had to shift because I came on in January, so that was after the busy season, so you pretty much could get whatever you wanted to, but I needed to be prepared for the next busy season, which starts in September. And if I'm not mistaken, I had this at 3 different LP factories. I had it at 3 different CD manufacturers. Had it at 2 different cassette duplicators, just to be able to get the kind of volume in a short period of time. Because again, the focus was don't run out, but don't make too much. So I was making it every week. We weren't inventory. I wasn't making 200,000, 300,000, $1 million at a time, 500,000. I was making literally 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, then maybe 100,000, and then putting it into the pipeline. So it needed to go to the warehouse, our warehouses first, then it needed to go to the bigger box warehousing so that they can then distribute it to their local retailers. So we had to have a whole pipeline of product. And quite frankly, actually, 6 months later, we did start to get some product back. Some of the smaller stores that didn't really get that they were selling a lot more than what they thought they were selling. And also, those are the days just when, who was it that Mike Shallot started SoundScans. So nobody really knew how much you really sold, until SoundScan, where they were actually scanning barcodes and you actually got a physical report. Otherwise, I think most companies they just reported what they shipped. Nobody ever reported what came back. Okay. In this particular case, what shipped and what sold through, that's how we started to know, well, it sold through. It really sold because you actually got a scan.
Right. Although before SoundScan, we did have a market research department. So on our major projects, we knew how it was selling.
Yeah.
We paid to get the information.
But they had to go out.
That's correct.
And actually go count what was on the shelf.
Yeah, that was my question before too. If you had automated processes back then, because right when this hit was kind of when computers were starting to
just coming into play.
So they were probably just tallying things up in the beginning on like notebook paper.
That's correct. That's pretty much it. But it was lots of stores with lots of notebook paper, because we did want to know. Lou brought up a great point.
Okay.
He was a master at inventory control, and you don't want to be left. The company that's left with a million things at the end, because they'll go to a separate world called cutouts, where you get paid very little money, and you take a bath monetarily. And he prevented that from happening incredibly successfully, project after project. He was awesome.
My whole career at RCA, responsible for inventory. Any inventory that we had in-house, that ended up in the cutouts, were product that was returned. I never manufactured any product that was sat in the warehouse and never shipped. All of my product shipped.
Great.
And then it was only the returns that ended up to the cutout market. Yeah, but that was also another decision we made that was hard to make. The sell it to the cutout market, which reduces the value of the product. You start selling something for $5 or $3 or $2.
Well, luckily you haven't had to, and it's 30 years, and congratulations to your whole entire team for creating the success that you have across the globe. This is absolutely wonderful. So, Dirty Dancing, more Dirty Dancing. Recently they did a remake of the movie.
Right.
You said that they changed the music. Sometimes, it's like Willy Wonka. They did that twice. I think the original Dirty Dancing stays true. So thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to knowing you. You've been here to talk about Elvis. You're here to talk about Dirty Dancing, and you'll come back again, I hope?
Yes.
Excellent. Lou, thank you as always. And for those of you in the audience that don't know, Lou is actually the COO of Drake Media Network and the executive producer of Live It Up. So he's here with us all the time, and every once in a while we'll get him to be on front of the camera. Stay tuned for more on Live It Up. We hope you enjoyed this special on Dirty Dancing.